Don't know your Krypto from your Krypton? Not sure what's so terrific about Mr. Terrific? Fear not, we've got all the comics you need to read before the Man of Steel arrives in the brand new DCU. Ever since James Gunn tweeted a photo of All-Star Superman back in 2023, it was clear the series would be one of the foundation pillars of his first Superman movie. Written by Grant Morrison and illustrated by Frank Quitely, this late 2000s comic is widely regarded as one of the best Superman stories ever written and one of the best DC comics ever published. Set apart from the mainline DC Comics continuity at the time, All-Star Superman begins with the Man of Steel saving the world from one of Lex Luthor's dastardly plots. Though he's successful in bringing Luthor to justice, the incident forces Kal-El to absorb a massive amount of energy from our sun. As a result, for the next 12 months, Superman will wield awesome, unmatched power, and then he'll die. Though Gunn's Superman won't be a straight adaptation of All-Star Superman, he has said that it served as his biggest inspiration for the film. Among the similarities between the two are a sci-fi leaning tone, a portrayal of Luthor as an almost magically mad genius, the use of monsters and alien creatures, and the incorporation of Kal-El's Kryptonian robots. All-Star also portrays Superman himself in a lovable and relatable light, which, to be totally honest, hasn't really been the case with recent Superman movies. More than anything else, Gunn's Superman movie will be all about kindness, echoing Morrison and Quitely's tale of a hero trying to use his final hours to take care of the people around him. Superman, whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow, might not seem like a natural influence on James Gunn's Superman, but Gunn himself named the story as a must-read for any fans looking forward to his new movie. Written by Alan Moore and illustrated by Kurt Swan, this is another story about the end of Superman, both literally and metaphorically. 1986 was a particularly momentous year for comics as a whole, but especially for DC, as the end of Crisis on Infinite Earths kickstarted a brand new continuity for the franchise. At the same time, books like The Dark Knight Returns and Moore's own Watchmen began to spark fan interest in darker mainstream comics.
The greatest practical joke in human history.
Killing millions.
To save billions.
Although they're undeniably great, the tonal shift in these stories rebelled against the sense of optimism that's so inherent in great superhero stories. And Moore himself seems to eulogize this optimism in Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow. Obviously, no one expects Gunn to end Superman's story in his first DCU movie, so we know he won't have taken too much narrative influence from this one. Yet it's worth noting that nowadays, Hollywood superhero movies are just as tonally confused as the comic books of the late 80s. In that regard, it's possible that Gunn read Whatever Happened in order to figure out how superhero cinema might turn back toward the light. If he wants this movie to usher in a new age of optimistic, exciting, and colorful superhero movies, then this story would certainly be a great place to start. James Gunn has mentioned many influences on his Superman movie, but Kingdom Come might be the hardest to square. Like All-Star Superman and Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, this story isn't meant to establish Superman's origins for new fans or set up future adventures. That said, he's not marked for death in Kingdom Come either. Instead, this comic finds him living in a futuristic world where his old ideals have been all but tossed away. In Mark Waid and Alex Ross's 1996 comic, an aged Clark Kent has watched helplessly as a new wave of heroes in the DC universe adopted pessimistic worldviews and new brutal methods of fighting supervillains. This ultimately prompted Clark to hang up his cape, leaving the rest of the Justice League to walk down a very dark path indeed. Of course, Superman's costume in Kingdom Come clearly inspired the insignia worn by David Cornsweet's character in Superman, but Gunn likely took more than a single icon from Waid and Ross's comic book. For example, it could be that the story's conflict between old-fashioned superheroism and New Age vigilantism has influenced the central theme of Superman. After all, the Justice League seen in the movie's trailers appeared to be a more militant version of the team, who are more focused on enforcing the law than saving lives or inspiring hope in ordinary people. If this is the case, Gunn's Superman could be less of an origin for the character himself and more of an origin for the ideology of this DC universe, with Clark championing a new age of heroism, one based on hope, compassion, and justice. Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale's Superman for All Seasons has also been confirmed as one of the stories that inspired James Gunn's adaptation of Superman. And this one seems to best capture the way in which Gunn's film will explore the impact Superman has on the people around him.
Ready?
Let's do it, Cronkite.
As the title implies, each of the 4 issues of Superman for All Seasons takes place in a different season of a different year, beginning with the spring of Clark Kent's senior year at Smallville High School. Yet they also take place largely from the perspective of the ordinary people who know Clark best: Jonathan Kent, Lois Lane, Lex Luthor, and Lana Lang. As they each narrate a chapter in the life of the Man of Steel, Superman for All Seasons develops into a surprisingly contemplative tale, even as it goes through the action-adventure beats of your typical Superman comic. Gunn's Superman is notable for including more fully fledged superheroes than you'd usually expect from a solo film, but he's also taken great care in filling out the non-superhuman supporting cast, perhaps to emphasize that this new cinematic universe isn't just about gods, vigilantes, and lawmen, but also the people they're supposed to protect. When production on Superman got underway, James Gunn tweeted an image of Mr. Terrific taken from a comic that may well have influenced his version of the character.
Hey! Quit messing around!
I'm not messing around, I'm doing important stuff.
Starting in 2018, DC began publishing The Terrifics, a new team-up comic book series spun out of the pages of the Dark Knight's Metal event. Long story short, the aftermath of a Batman-tastic multiversal war prompts Mr. Terrific to assemble a team of weirder, mostly science-based superheroes, including Plastic Man, Phantom Girl, and Metamorpho, an element shifter who happens to be another major player in Gunn's Superman. Given that the Terrifics are basically DC's answer to the Fantastic Four, and that Gunn's former colleagues at Marvel are set to release an equally hyped Fantastic Four film around the same time as Superman, it isn't hard to imagine that the new DCU could produce a direct adaptation of the Terrifics in the near future. Strange Adventures is another great option for readers looking to better understand both Mr. Terrific and the tone of future DC movies, especially since it was penned by someone who's partially responsible for 2 upcoming DCU projects. This 2020 maxi series was written by Tom King and drawn by Mitch Gerads and Evan Doc Shaner. The story is largely a mystery thriller that follows intergalactic war hero Adam Strange as he attempts to build a new life for himself on Earth. As he attempts to write and sell a book about his pivotal role in the war between the Ran and their alien invaders, someone who claims to know a dark secret about this strange adventure is murdered. Because Batman can't impartially investigate Adam to determine his potential role in the killing, the Dark Knight brings in someone with a mind even greater than his own, Mr. Terrific. In addition to being a terrific Mr. Terrific story, Strange Adventures is a fantastic showcase of King's talent for pacing, drama, and theme. When he was writing this comic, King's previous maxi series, Mr. Miracle, had already gotten him a job writing the since-canceled New Gods movie. Now, he's attached to HBO's Lanterns TV show, and his comic book, Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, has been mentioned as one of the key influences on Gunn's DC universe. Strange Adventures, then, is a must-read, both for Terrific fans and for anyone who wants to hear more from one of the franchise's defining voices. Despite being a character with a surprising number of solo series to his name, Metamorpho's best story remains Justice League Europe. The 1989 series sees Metamorpho team up with the Elongated Man, the alternate universe Supergirl Kara Zor-El, Animal Man, and Wally West, all under the leadership of the nuclear-powered American hero Captain Atom. This series has a light-hearted and self-referential tone relative to proper Justice League titles, and Metamorpho shines in his role, which lies somewhere between the team's comic relief and an omniscient meta-commentator. As a whole, Justice League Europe is a great deal of fun thanks to the unique dynamic created by these otherwise second-string heroes, each of whom is written in such a way that they could easily fit into James Gunn's DC universe. Readers who enjoyed the Terrifics should take special note of Justice League Europe too, as it's something of a spiritual predecessor to that series. From the looks of it, the version of the Justice League seen in James Gunn's Superman will draw at least some inspiration from the 1987 post-crisis series Justice League International. Why do we say this? Well, for one thing, Guy Gardner holds a prominent position on the Justice League-esque team in Superman, just as he does in Justice League International. More noteworthy still is the fact that this series helped define Gardner's more humorous side, which will surely play into Gunn and Nathan Fillion's portrayal of the character.
And also, you said that I suck.
It is not funny.
On top of that, Gunn has cast his brother, Sean Gunn, in the DC universe as the scheming businessman Maxwell Lord. For a time, Lord was the benefactor and business aide to the Justice League International, and eagle-eyed fans have spotted that many of the heroes in Superman are wearing the logo of his company Lord Tech on their costumes. Despite being relatively popular thanks to the Justice League animated series, Hawkgirl never seems to get a fair shake in the actual comics. With Isabella Merced playing the Winged Warrior in Superman, however, Hawkgirl could have a promising future in James Gunn's DC universe. As far as actual comic books go, Hawkgirl Once Upon a Galaxy is a decent contemporary story for new readers looking to spend more time with Kendra Saunders. Written by Jadzia Axelrod and drawn by Amin Kai Noelpan, the story picks up after the Justice League have disbanded, leading Hawkgirl to try to find herself by fighting crime in Metropolis. There, she meets and forms an unlikely alliance with Galaxy, a fellow alien of immense power whose bubbly personality clashes with Hawkgirl's fierce independence. This 6-issue run has plenty of fun, action, and humor, and at the very least tries to imagine Hawkgirl as the hero of her own story, which few other comic books have done thus far. In Superman, James Gunn is clearly trying to ditch the tech bro psychopath interpretation of Lex Luthor established by Jesse Eisenberg in Batman vs. Superman.
You're psychotic.
That is a 3-syllable word for any thought too big for little minds.
Instead, Nicholas Holt's version of Lex seems to be a more serious kind of super genius. Gunn has said that his inspiration for the Luthor of Superman came from Golden Age Superman comics, All-Star Superman, and the 2005 miniseries Luthor, Man of Steel by Brian Azzarello and Lee Bermejo. In this series, Azzarello and Bermejo tell a pointedly dark story from the supervillain's point of view. Across 5 issues, the story follows Luthor as he carries out a plot against Superman, and it withholds just enough information to keep you guessing at his ultimate motive. Without spoiling anything, the story explores the extent of Luthor's jealousy of Superman and how he can damage a man who's impervious to bullets and blades. Sadly, the series kinda misses the mark when it comes to the story's heroes. With Lex, though, Man of Steel delivers an artful character study that sees Superman's arch-nemesis at his very best, and his absolute worst.